This week on Linda's Longarm Quilting, it's the Gadget Show. Girls and boys who quilt all love quilting toys. We're looking at tools and attachments that make quilting easier, faster, and better. So stay tuned.
Linda's Longarm Quilting is made possible by Gamble Quilting Machine Company, bringing quality, innovation, and service to quilters around the world for over a quarter of a century. By YLI, making decorative threads that help you unleash your imagination. By Statler Stitcher, providing automation to enhance and expand your long-arm quilting business. And by Hobbs Bonded Fibers.
Today on Linda's Longarm Quilting, we're looking at some of the best gadgets. I'll show you attachments for quilting machines to help you make perfect designs. But first, joining me is Paul Statler, who has brought the ultimate longarm quilting gadget with him, a computerized quilting machine. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Linda, for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So tell me, what is different about this longarm quilting machine?
Okay, we have attached a computer so the computer guides it.
You don't have to do it yourself. The computer runs the machine.
That's correct.
Well, I've seen that it can do overalls, but how do you put it in a block? Let's say we want to do a block design.
All right, we pick a pattern. There's hundreds of patterns available. That comes with this.
So you pick that from the computer?
That's right.
Okay.
Pick the pattern you want, and now you adjust, actually tell it where the block is at by clicking on the corners.
Okay, I can see we have a block here, but you know, I've done quilts that don't have perfect square blocks or rectangles. So what if the block isn't perfectly square or rectangle?
The computer knows that when you give it the location, and it will adjust the pattern, it'll rotate, it will also size it. So shall we demonstrate that?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Let's do that. I can see that we're going to do a Texas boot here, but I want to make this hard. So once we get this, this design here, can we turn it upside down?
Yes, we can.
All right.
We can all flip it upside down, also backwards.
Oh, I can have the toe point either way.
That's right.
That's very versatile.
You can rotate it on the degrees.
Okay.
Okay. Now we just need to tell it where the block is at.
Okay. And I know I just put dots there, so I know this isn't a perfect block, and that's good.
It doesn't care.
Okay. All right. So we're at the bottom left-hand corner. So
that's
now
right.
What do I do?
Now you press the start button.
Okay. I can
and
do that.
Now it will ask you to click on the lower left
corner.
corner.
Okay, there we go.
And now you move it to the right bottom corner. And click again.
Okay.
Then move it to the top left. Yes, to the next corner.
And the left hand. Okay.
Okay, now we've told the software where this block is at, the size of the block, and the rotation of it.
Okay.
Now you're ready to just push the start button.
Okay.
And it will move down to the start and give you a single stitch to pick up your bobbin.
Okay.
Now you can pick up the bobbin.
All right, I know how to do that. All right.
And then just push the start button.
Okay.
It will start tacking so it doesn't ravel, and then sew the pattern.
And it's going to be upside down, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Here we go. Yeehaw.
It also adjusts the speed to the size of the arcs. A small arc will go slow. A large arc will speed up.
And it has perfect stitches,
yes,
right?
It does.
They're all spaced evenly?
Yeah, and that is selectable.
Oh, okay, so you can tell it how many stitches to the inch you want.
Correct.
Oh, wonderful. There it is, upside down and pointed to the left. Okay. All right, let's do another challenge. You know, this is kind of plain for Texans. How about putting something in the middle of that boot? How would you do that?
Would you like a cactus, maybe?
Oh, perfect choice, yes.
Pick a cactus.
That's terrific. Oh, that's a good one.
We probably need to turn it upside down.
Well,
also.
we would, yes. So you just tell it to turn it upside down.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, if you push the start button,
okay, I can do that.
Now move it to the bottom left of that open area.
Like the bottom here or the bottom of the boot?
Well, it's actually the bottom.
The bottom here. Okay, so
Yes.
I'm actually picking where I want this cactus to go inside the boot.
That's right.
Okay. Let's put it right
You're actually
here.
telling what size
Now, that
you
might
want.
not be perfect. That's okay, right?
That's okay.
Okay. All right.
Now it knows with the block where you want to sew that.
Okay.
You just push the start
Push
button.
start again.
It will go to the start point and single
And I
stitch.
just drug my thread. That was okay.
That's okay.
Because I can clip it later.
That's right.
Okay.
Now push the start button.
Okay. All
And
right.
it'll tack it off.
So we have a good tack, so it's not going to come out when it gets washed. There's my cactus. Oh, that's just the decoration it needed. Yes. Oh, that is so exciting. Now, my question now is, can you do freehand too?
Yes, you can.
You can do both on it.
Yes.
So it doesn't just do computerized. I can also. How do I do that? What
right.
if I wanted to do some loops here?
Okay. If you'll press the top right button
Okay.
and
All
go
right.
down to stitch regulator.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now
Okay.
if you push the start button, move it in position where you want to start
Oh,
sewing.
okay. Let's say I'm going to come out over here. Okay.
Now push the start button
All right.
and start moving it.
All right. Oh, okay. So I could do loops and boots. What if I wanted to, say I'm doing a border and I want to do loops and then I want these little boots everywhere. So I just do the same
All
thing?
you need to do is go to the mode, push the top right button,
Okay.
and it goes back to the bottom
Where
left
I
corner.
want it to go. Okay, so I could just put this in a border and do my freehand around it. Well, this has just been a real eye-opener for me. Thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome.
If you are quilting professionally, you need a way to record information about each quilt and each customer. The easiest way to handle this is a work order. This helps you keep track of what you're doing and who you're doing it for. It's an aid for gathering all the information you need from the customers about their preferences and the work to be done on their quilts. It's also helpful information to have as customers return and become repeat customers. At a minimum, your work order should include the following: your business name and all the contact information, the customer information, address, phone number, and the quilt name, measurements, and description. I also like to include the color of the quilt. I may have more than one double wedding ring at a time. How the quilt is to be quilted, the patterns chosen, the things that you've discussed with the customer about quilting that quilt. Binding, are you going to do it or is the customer going to do it? And is it a hand or a machine bind? What's the choice of thread? Cotton, poly, metallic, variegated? Was there a certain color that she was asking for? What are the prices? This should be spelled out in black and white for the customer, including the tax. The date that the quilt is received by you and the date that it's finished by you. Having all this information in one place will solve many of your business's problems before they have a chance to start. Begin with the work order system on paper, then move to a computerized system as your business grows. If you're not a professional quilter, but just considering using one, it's a good idea to keep track of this same kind of information yourself and have it ready when you take your quilt top in to be quilted. Hi, I've brought you around to the back of the machine because I want to show you some of the tools and gadgets that we use to make perfect designs from the back of the machine. This one makes hundreds of designs, and I've already started a design. You can see I have a stylus here that just goes into one of the holes after I decide which design I want, and I've locked this into the table and positioned it exactly where my block would be. Then I just have to turn on the machine. There we go. And I'm ready to just crank this. Look at that. And I just overrun that a little bit and it completes my design. Now I could put design over design and really do a lot of fancy work on this. And the stitches are perfect as well because I just set that to exactly the stitch length that I wanted it to be. So that is a really handy tool. Now I'm going to move over and show you another one, and I'll just unlock that, and move it down the table a little bit. You can see it just slides down to wherever you need it. Then I'll bring up my needle, move that over, go down in the same hole, and bring up my bobbin thread so I can cut that. So we'll come down to this blank spot, and this is another tool here, and this one has got an oval. Now it's got circles on the other side of it, so all reversible. And we'll get this in a position. All I have to do to center it is to use, again, my little stylus, has a little pointer right there, and I can go down right in the middle like that, and then I will lock my table in. Now I'm going to make several ovals. Just decide on the size of oval that we want. There we go, and we'll put it down and tighten everything like that. I'll go down and bring up my thread, and I can cut that once I get started there. And again, I'm going to turn on the machine and just move the machine around the oval like that. And I overran that again a little bit to secure my stitches. We'll cut that thread. Now normally I would bring that up and cut the thread and move to another size. This time I'm going to just rotate this whole disc to another position. So, and let's see what kind of a design we get by doing that. We'll move that to another position there. And again, we'll just keep quilting. There we go. You can see it's turning into a styrograph. Move it again till we get back to where we started. Now the nice thing here is that you can also plan and get this in the exact size that you need it to fit into your square or whatever you're going to put it on your quilt. Just keep going. You see how it's turning out? There we go. Almost back to where we started. So we'll overrun that and move it again. I think we only have one more on this one. There we go, and that completes our spiral design. Just wonderful, perfect stitches. I'm going to leave this in the same place. I'll move the machine over here because I'm going to grab some other designs. It's almost like embroidery cards. You just switch out. You can see we have all these different designs that we can choose from. And on the other side of this one is our perfect circles. But circles can be boring, so we'll go to something even funner. Let's put this one on and we just replace it. Now we're still centered. We haven't moved not moved the plate here. So we'll just screw this in the middle like that, move it in a position and lock it in. Now we could either do something around that or we could do something inside of it. So let's go in and do a little design inside of it and see how that turns out. I'll reach up here. I'm still connected with my thread, so we'll just continue to go here like that and following this one around like that. And again, overlapping just a bit. Now this design is only in 2 positions, so let's see what happens when we go around that one more time. Doesn't matter which direction you go around it. Very pretty. Let's just frame that by coming out here on the outside and going around, making a flower out here. And the machine is so easily moved. It's just a fingertip touch. Going in the corners, rounding the points. There we go. Like that. Over stitching. And we will just move, I'll turn the machine off while we move this, into one other position here, just to cross that and make it a little more interesting. Ooh. Now you can also combine this with your freehand. And there we go. Now I could go on the other side and echo, I could feather the design element and just have some very interesting designs. So if I can do this, I know you can do it. That completes the design that we were working on, but I want to show you some that are not so round or styrographs. So I'm going to pull my stylus out of here, and I will move the machine over, go down and bring up my thread. You see how I grab that loop to bring up the thread, and there's my bobbin thread. You never have to cut your tails underneath your quilt because you can always cut your threads and so there you don't have a mess on the back. Now I'm going to change this design out by unscrewing the plate, moving that out of the way. And we have lots of designs there, but there are some, like this one, that has straight lines. Now that might look boring, but boy, does that serve a good purpose. Let me show you what we can do with that. So we'll screw this in again. And I'll just come down here to a little bit of a blank area. So I'm going to push this out. This has little teeth along here, so I can just slide this down. And we'll come over here to this area. We'll lock our table in, like that. Now let's go in this straight line. This is really exciting to me. We're going to lock this in, so we're not going to be out of that. And I'll start down here a little bit closer to me. Grab my thread and bring it up. I'll take 2 or 3 stitches there to secure that. And I'm going in a straight line, not in the same hole. Just make sure that that's out of the way. So as I come along here, well, that's going to make a straight line. Now I'm not going to break that thread, but normally of course you would. I'm just going to move this 1/4 of an inch and come back. And I can have, these little things are all increments of 1/4 inch, and they're marked, so you could do a 1/2 inch, or you could do 1/4, you could do an inch. So we can do several lines like that. Looks like I missed one in between there. Let's go back and get that one. There we go. Now I can lift this up, turn off the machine, bring up my needle. By rotating, now I had this at this angle. I may have wanted it at less of an angle, or even more of an angle. So by turning it this way, I believe that that was the angle that I had it at. I can come down here, put this in the line again. Let's get our thread up, out of the way. That's going to cross that, but that's okay. No, it isn't okay. We need to cut it. All right. There we go. Stitch up here. So let's see what kind of an angle we can make. And again, we're just going to slide this down 1/4 of an inch, like that. And you can see those perfect diamond shapes that I am forming with that cross hatching. And these are all 1/4 inch increments. But you see, you could do it at 1/2 inch increments, or you can have your cross hatching this way or this way or this way, however you want. And this will go up to a 14-inch block. So if you're working on some of those Baltimore albums, you can do perfect cross hatching, perfect stitches, perfect angles. So it's just so exciting to be involved with this, so that we can do these things and do such a good job for our customers. You know, it's always interesting because I know you both do your own quilting on machines and some by hand even, and yet you sought me out as a longarm quilter, and so that's kind of an interesting phenomenon. Why did you feel like you needed to have other quilters?
At some point, when you have as much production as we do, you have to give something up and learn to share the artistic creativity. And we were so happy to find you because we can trust you.
I think that trust is probably a big part of the long arm quilting world.
Yes, it is.
When people like you or others find somebody that they can really trust with their quilt.
I want to show you how the technique works. I need to draw it up for you.
Okay.
All right, because I think it's important
So
if you
practice
sit.
on paper maybe.
Yes,
Okay.
and you know, like any new technique that you start with,
Mm-hmm.
it is extremely important to practice.
Okay.
All right, if you can draw it,
I think
You can quilt it.
Okay, I'm
Okay?
still practicing.
you are not.
Now when I stop, instead of stopping right in that corner, I'm going to turn off the machine and I'm going to take a few little stitches along the other seam in the ditch. So when I turn the quilt over, I won't have any big blobs at those corners. That's really important. You need to make sure that your stops and starts are very clean. Now I'm going to push the machine away and I'm going to grab the thread that I just drug over, pull the machine back like this, go down in that same place, same hole, then push the machine away again. And you can see that I brought up, now I have this loop that I had it originally, and I just brought up the bobbin thread, and it's doubled. So I can cut that right there, and there's my bobbin tail. So when I get finished with this quilt, I won't have to trim any of the tails off the back. When I'm finished, I'm really finished. Bring up my thread, take some security stitches there, and I take those in the direction that I'm going to head. I don't go back on top of those same stitches because I don't want a lot of little stitches on the back in one area. And you can't go in the same hole or you make a knot. So in your mind, if you think of 20 stitches to the inch, that's how tiny those stitches are. And that will secure that thread so that it won't come out when the thread is used or washed or laundered. Just play and have so much fun making up your own flowers so you can have your own garden. What could be funner? So don't get locked into traditional designs. This is your day, this is your art, and it's wonderful to put your art on an art that was traditional back then. So those tops have been passed down for you to put your art on them. It's really important that you have a stipple strip. And this is simply all different sizes of stipple from very tiny up to very large. And if you are a professional quilter, you must have this because your customers are going to want to choose what size stipple. And you need to know what size did they mean when they said small stipple. Also, it is a nice guide because if I decide that I'm going to do this #1 stipple, I can keep this #1 stipple right by my project as I'm doing it and compare it all the way through the quilt. I don't have to roll the quilt back to the beginning to see if I'm doing the same size because sometimes we get tired and so our stipple gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
This is Canterbury Tales. This was, I think, the third one I did on a long arm. This was a little baptism by fire because I had to get it done. This was on the cover of my second book. And this quilt had to get done, and that's what really prompted me to learn the long arm machine. And you know, Winston Churchill said, play for more than you can afford to lose and you will learn the game. And that's what happened with this one. You know, I often just, I freehand draw, but I thought maybe it'd be a little more interesting for you if you could see.
Well, I think I might need something to look at.
And if you do, you know, if you can see it, you
can
can
draw
draw
it?
it.
Oh.
And if you can draw it, you can quilt it.
Oh,
It's that simple.
I think I could. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this season of Linda's Long Arm Quilting and that you've learned something about quilting with a long arm machine. Whether you're a longtime quilter or just considering learning to use a machine, my hope is that I've conveyed a sense of how much fun you can have and how creative you can be with the long arm machine. If you're thinking about starting a quilting business, then I hope you've benefited from my advice and experience in that area. Even if you aren't inspired to rush out and get behind a machine, I hope that you are now motivated to finish your quilting projects and that you have a new appreciation for the artistry and skill involved in quilting. Keep watching for new episodes and above all, go and try it yourself. Remember, if I can do it, you can do it.
For more information, visit us on the web at www.lindaslongarmquilting.com. Linda's Longarm Quilting is made possible by Gamel Quilting Machine Company, bringing quality, innovation, and service to quilters around the world for over a quarter of a century. By YLI, making decorative threads that help you unleash your imagination. By Statler Stitcher, providing automation to enhance and expand your long arm quilting business. And by Hobbs Bonded Fibers,